Good morning everyone, my name is Michelle, I hope you're doing well. Welcome to another video. It is Wednesday morning the 22nd of October and we're sticking with the Sebastian Rogers case today. Talked about Sebastian yesterday because there is some new information that has come out over the last few days. This video is a direct follow-on from yesterday's video. So I'll give you permission if you want to click out of this video, watch yesterday's video, and then come back to this. That's fine if you didn't see yesterday's video. However, I'm going to hone in on one aspect, and that is the search dogs, because much of the new information that has come out is related to where the search dogs went and where the search dogs alerted. So I am going to give a little bit of the backstory to it. So if you don't want to click out of this video and go to yesterday's video and then come back, that's fine. It's not like you're not going to understand this video. Anyway, less of my chatter. Let's get into it. Before we get into the video, can I just ask, if you're not yet subscribed, please do so. I'm trying to get to 100,000 subscribers by the end of this year. With your help, I can do it. There's nothing in it for me except the silver play button plaque for my wall, which YouTube will send me when I reach that milestone. If you're subscribed already, get your friends, get your family, get your neighbours, get your dog to all subscribe as well. And share the video out. Hopefully my videos will reach a wider audience and people will actually like my videos. So it's win-win, completely free at your end. Alright. Without further ado, Sebastian Rogers was 15 years old when he went missing from his Hendersonville, Tennessee home. His mother, Katie Proudfoot, saw him last on February 25th, 2024. They'd been out that day, they'd had a little bit of dinner in the Texas Roadhouse in Hendersonville. They went home, Sebastian went to bed about 9. Around an hour later, Katie heard some kind of movements like a thud in Sebastian's room. She asked him if he was okay and go back to sleep. He said, "Yes, Mum," and that was it. Katie went to bed about midnight, just assuming that Sebastian was in his room and everything was fine and he was asleep. When she got up the following morning around 6 a.m. to get him up for school, he wasn't in his room, just completely vanished. Just completely and totally vanished. And he is missing to this day. The case has become an absolute circus with lawsuits and all sorts of things. But one aspect of Sebastian's case that has garnered a lot of speculation and confusion is the search dogs. Nerdy Addict, I've followed Nerdy on Twitter for ages, but he does have a YouTube channel as well, and over the last week or so he's been doing live streams about the information that he got when he went to Tennessee. He did some interesting drone footage and he met with Chris Proudfoot. He didn't intend to, but he needed more flyers. Chris had some flyers, so they spoke for an hour and a half, 2 hours. And Chris, who is Sebastian's stepdad, gave Nerdy a lot of information that we haven't heard before. And Nerdy has put this information out. One piece of information that has confused me is about the search dogs. So, what do we know about the search dogs? Well, we know that the first responding canine was Max, the German Shepherd, who is a police dog with Sumner County Sheriff's Office. He does have basic tracking training, but he's not scent specific. And if we look at the map here, we've actually got a video of this that was put out by private investigator SF Investigates. Video comes from one of these houses here at the top of Kelling Lane. This is Sebastian's house here, this is Kelling Lane, and this row of houses backs onto the construction site. We see Max, the German Shepherd. They start off here, you see him wandering along, and then he sets off at a trot. And we hear on the dispatch audio that Max dove right into this retention pond.
Max picked track back up, going into the construction site over here back towards the beach.
That's the one behind you. It's awful muddy. Do you see any footprints, anything? You shouldn't have any shoes on.
Negative, this is all dry, hard packed. I do have some footprints over here.
Right there where you're standing?
Yeah, leading right over here to the retaining pond.
No shoes, just footprints?
My shoes, but Max went straight into the pond. Max led me straight to the retaining pond. Over behind Willow Boulevard, he dove right into the water.
Yeah, do you see any footprints around it?
There was a few footprints in some of the softer dirt headed straight this way on the track that he was running.
So that's undisputable information about Max diving into the retention pond. This pond right here. This pond's still here. This pond was drained. It was only shallow anyway. It was like knee deep. It was drained and it was walked. So there's lots of sludge at the bottom. Law enforcement walked it so that if there's, any evidence in the sludge at the bottom, they'd feel it. Trey from Naught Divers also walked that pond. It's actually on video of Trey walking backwards and forwards for about an hour. And he did find some stuff in that pond, like some items of clothing, I seem to remember, but nothing related to Sebastian. So we know Sebastian's not in that pond. He's not in that pond. So why Max dove into that pond, we don't know. We can't speak dog. Rex, the other German Shepherd police dog from the Sumner County Sheriff's Office, also had some interest. I don't have a video of this. If anybody's got the video of Rex, let me have it, please. But Rex started off in the same place, and he wanted to go into these yards here. So something of interest in this area. Now, Chris Proudfoot, Sebastian's stepdad, told Trey from Naught Divers, and Trey recorded this call, that 3 dogs, a bloodhound, a blue-tick coonhound, and a dog of unknown breed from a different group, all track the same path.
If you're looking at my house, it's going to be the right-hand side. The dog goes all the way down the fence, the dog comes all the way back up into the yard, and then it cuts that diagonal to the house next door us through the back door. And that's the direction which the dogs took off. Now after that, that's where they get over to the neighbor, go up Kellen, and head over to the other subdivision. Okay.
From the front door, down the back fence, across the neighbour's yard, and onto Kellen, and then ultimately to the other subdivision, which is the construction site. Additionally, SF Investigates, not that long ago, released a video of a bloodhound, and this dog is captured on camera from one of the surveillance cameras to the front of Kellen, so kind of looking over this area roughly, and you see the dog coming along, sniffing, mooching about, just generally having a mooch. And then this dog, which is scent specific, this is the first scent specific dog that's on scene. This is around 8:30 in the morning. It sets off a trot in the exact same space where 8 hours before, at 12:17 a.m, there was like a shadowy figure. Was that Sebastian? Because this dog is scent specific. So it's intriguing. However, Nerdy Addict has relayed some information back to YouTube and social media about what Chris has said, in addition to this information.
Canines pick up the scent, they go into the playscape, and then they take it from there, they go across the street to the creek. In the first video on the ground, you see that sort of shack there, the barn there, where it says Shackle Island. That behind there is the creek. He then says that the canines continue the scent down the creek at some point, and I don't know where, but it's somewhere between the creek and Old Hickory Dam, which is why I showed it. It switches off to cadaver dogs. Cadaver dogs led to the dam. Now, I had a whole lot of questions for ChatGPT because I don't know if someone drowned 6 months ago, if cadaver dogs are going to pick up on that scent or not. I'm not a canine specialist.
Well, okay. As I said in yesterday's video, water searches are notoriously difficult. You can train a dog to water search. If a body is under the water, if a dog is on a boat directly above that body, and that body is still in the decomposition phase, then yeah, that dog will alert. And that body could have been in the water for a long time. And as long as there's still active decomposition, then that dog is still going to alert. In a river system, however, which is what we're talking about here, it's a little bit more difficult because the water's moving. In a lake, bodies at the bottom, that's one thing. But in a river system where the water's moving, a body would have had to gone by very recently because the water's moving the scent. Right, it would have to have been very recent for that dog to pick up a scent in moving water if the body's moving. Nerdy on Twitter, this is 10 hours ago, has written it out what he believes he heard from Chris. Chris didn't want him to record this conversation, so Nerdy is recounting all of this from memory. So if it turns out that some of these details are incorrect, give Nerdy the grace because he's working from memory. And this was like an hour and a half, 2 hour conversation. Having to remember all this word for word, incredibly difficult. I wish Chris had allowed him to record that conversation, but he didn't. And I think this has muddied the waters a lot. So this is what Nerdy wrote on Twitter. So we're going to read this. I'm going to read the comments because it brings up some interesting points. According to Chris Proudfoot, canine scent dogs initially crossed the street diagonally to a neighbour's property, showing strong interest in the neighbour's playscape. Now, the neighbour that Nerdy is talking about is Bobby. And Bobby is a woman who lives in one of these houses at the top of Kelling Lane here. And a dog tracked, apparently, into Bobby's yard to the playscape. Now, what we've heard previously from Chris is that a dog tracked diagonally across this neighbour's yard, like the next door neighbour's yard, and then onto Kelling. So what Nerdy Addict is saying is that a dog, now it doesn't necessarily mean tracked all the way up here, it could have been one of the dogs that was up here and tracked into Bobby's yard to the playscape. It's interesting that this is in the same vicinity that the bloodhound that is on the surveillance video is at. It's also interesting that Bobby has given a couple of interviews to YouTubers and said that her kids like to play flashlight tag. It's interesting that Sebastian left the house with nothing but a flashlight. So the speculation has been, did he go out to play flashlight tag with these kids? And lo and behold, here is someone in Bobby's yard at 10:19 p.m. on the 25th of February, so the very night when Sebastian left his home, out there with a flashlight. Now, loads of people in my comments said that this was one of Bobby's kids finding a cat, getting their cat, and they're crouching down is when they pick up the cat, which could well be true. It's only Bobby herself who's brought up this conversation of flashlight tag. It could well be true. The kid could have been out there looking for a cat. And there'd be no flashlight tag at all that night. Fair enough. But what confuses me is what happens next. From there, the dogs picked up the scent and moved towards the creek, which runs behind the fire station that served as the search command centre. Okay, so we have to move down here, right, down here. This is where the command centre was. I'm going to switch to Google Maps because it's less clunky. Okay, so there is a creek that runs all the ways down here. And this creek, I think it's called Drake's Creek. You can see it better if we turn it on here. That runs all the way down for about 5 miles and then joins the Cumberland River. So it confused me when I heard Nerdy saying that they crossed the street to the creek because the creek's down here. But there is another little creek which feeds into Drake's Creek, just kind of south here. So ultimately it goes to the same place. So there's a creek comes down, and then there's this other one as well which joins it shortly thereafter. So what it appears for Nerdy to be saying is that a dog went from Bobby's yard, tracked down, all the way down across the street to this creek, which then runs behind the fire station. Chris stated that a combination of scents, or live scent trackers, and cadaver dogs, so the ones that are sniffing out human remains, followed the trail all the way to Old Hickory Dam, where the scent ultimately stopped. So Old Hickory Dam is miles away. So Drake's Creek comes all the way down through Hendersonville, joins the Cumberland River system here, and here is Old Hickory Dam, right here. This is Old Hickory Dam. So with it being a dam, if a body was in this area, the river is flowing west in this direction. So Drake's Creek joins here. The river is flowing in this direction. So technically, yes, a body could get from across the road from Sebastian's all the way down here and then end up at Old Hickory Dam, because that's the way that the river is flowing. However, there's plenty of places where a body could get stuck, lodged, whatever, but it is possible, if that flow is strong enough, for a body to end up at Old Hickory Dam. One of the dogs was reportedly so determined to continue tracking past the dam that it attempted, or may have even jumped into the water. Now we know that Max the German Shepherd jumped into the retention pond, but it appears, according to this information, another dog wanted to dive into the water, but this is past Old Hickory Dam, so going past this way. River's flowing west. Now I remember Stephen Crabtree a while ago talking about Manska Creek, which is this one, and this joins the Cumberland River. This is Manska Creek. It joins the Cumberland River here. I'm doing this from memory, but Stephen Crabtree said that there was something of concern that he saw, and he reported it to the cops, some concerning aspect in Manska Creek. Now, if that had been Sebastian, if he'd fallen in the creek here and drowned, there's no way that he could have got to Manska Creek, because the river's flowing down here into the Cumberland River. The body would have had to go past the dam and then somehow get lodged here, because Manska Creek is flowing in this direction. Everything's flowing to the Cumberland River. So a body can't go up here, upstream. I mean, if there was a flood or something like that, maybe it would get pushed, but the flow of the river is coming down here, all joining the Cumberland River. And then it goes through Nashville and then on and keeps going. I did find the stuff about Manska Creek interesting when Stephen Crabtree was talking about it, but I never seriously thought that it was Sebastian, just because of the location of the creek. Could be someone else. You know, people drown all the time, but it could be that these cadaver dogs are alerting on the scent of decomposition from someone else. But it's very, very interesting, and it's the first time we've heard information about the search dogs in Sebastian's case tracking anywhere outside of the neighbourhood, because it's always confused me as to why the dogs lost the scent on the construction site. It was always, well, is he on the construction site? Did he never leave the construction site? Because that construction site was never shut down. You can see all the trucks and diggers and stuff piling rubble into this area. This is all houses now. This is all done. But this area, you could see from this camera, like this area, was very active, and they never shut down the construction site. Even when the dogs were there searching, they never shut down the construction site, which is appalling. In my opinion, at least shut it down for a few hours for them to do a full search. But no. One of my early theories was that Sebastian went north because he got ties to White House School, which is up here. But it did confuse me as to why the dogs lost the scent. Well, if it's true that the dogs didn't lose the scent, the dogs actually came out of the neighbourhood and then went this way, and then ultimately went all the way down to Old Hickory Dam, well, okay, that makes sense. I've got an answer to my previous confusion. But we've never heard this information before. What gets me is why this information has never been released before. I think it's time for the cops to come and give us some information. Because we get this information piecemeal, then people say, oh, well, Chris Proudfoot's lying. Well, let's hear it from the cops. Like, apparently Chris didn't want Nerdy to release the information about the dogs, but he has. I don't know why Chris didn't want the information coming out about the dogs. But if we look at some of these comments, this is where the confusion is. Multiple people said that the dog jumped into the retention pond, but that's nowhere near the dam. Nerdy says, do people understand there was a lot of dogs, not just one? Yes, absolutely there were. Max and Rex were the first dogs from Sumner County Sheriff's Office, but then there was a whole bunch of dogs. There was like 15 different dogs. So, yeah, it's absolutely possible. Max jumped into the retention pond, but another dog showed interest in the water at Old Hickory Dam. There was loads of dogs, both live scent trackers and cadaver dogs. Only if it fits the narrative. I can't believe it's taken this long for small pieces of info to come out. Why is this case so secretive? Nerdy, in my opinion, correctly says, because creators formed emotional bonds with both sides, which doesn't allow them to look at this objectively, in my opinion. Absolutely. I'm on no one's side. I've said this from day one. I am no one's side. If it turns out that there's incriminating evidence against Chris and Katie, well, then I'll say I no longer believe that Chris and Katie are innocent. Same with Seth. I've never thought that any of the parents were involved, but if that evidence ever came forward, then, you know, real evidence, not just nonsense, then I'll believe it. The scent dogs picked up human scent, not Sebastian specifically. No, that was Max and Rex. And then human remains detection dogs, cadaver dogs, are looking for the scent of human decomposition, and that could come from anybody. But the dogs that came after Max and Rex are scent specific, and I can get you this from the horse's mouth. This was one of the early press conferences. This is Sheriff Eric Craddock. This is Ken Widener, Chief of Sumner County EMA.
Was any of the canines able to pick up on his scent or something that can lead you to maybe a direction where he might have been?
We've done that. We've actually cast the dogs at intersections to see if they take us. And our dogs are scent specific.
Our dogs are scent specific. Scent specific.
And we have scent articles from the home, gotten some tracks away from the home.
Ken Weiner did confuse matters later on in the case by saying that the dogs didn't get any tracks. But I think what he was saying is they didn't get any tracks that led to Sebastian. But absolutely here at this press conference was very clear that the dogs were scent specific, tracking Sebastian. So this bloodhound and all the other live scent trackers that came after Max and Rex were scent specific and were tracking Sebastian. They got tracks of Sebastian away from the home. But Nerdy's information is the first time that we've heard of dogs tracking Sebastian outside of the neighbourhood. Yeah, they smell his odour from clothes first. Absolutely. Max was the first dog and tracked to the retention pond. Pretty sure K9, that's Jules, cleared up his trail on a live. Maybe CP is talking about a different dog. Yes, he is. Max was a tracking dog. Tracking dogs are what LE use on a daily basis. They track a perp who is fleeing. Not a specific scent, just freshest human, any scent. Absolutely. But the dogs that came after Max were scent specific, tracking Sebastian. You heard it there from Ken Widener. Bloodhounds are among the dogs used in the search. They are unrivaled when it comes to tracking human scent, capable of following trails that are several days old and extending more than 10 miles. These are not the type of dogs used on a daily basis. That's true, and those were the dogs that came after. But bloodhounds are a breed of dog, right? They're not tracking blood. unless they're trained to track blood. Bloodhounds are a breed of dog. They're supposedly got the best sense of smell of any of the canines. However, in the UK, we don't tend to use bloodhounds. The police and search and rescue services tend to use either Springer Spaniels or Labradors. But then the general police dogs that we have are mainly German Shepherds, some Malleys, but mainly German Shepherds. They have basic tracking training. So they will chase a perp who is fleeing and be able to track them down. But the specialised jobs like electronics detection, bomb detection, things like that, money detection, drug detection, and scent-specific searching, they are specially trained dogs. And in the UK, we tend to use either Springer Spaniels or Labradors. But in the US, I don't see any Spaniels. I don't see Spaniels being used at all. I see Labradors, I see Shepherds, and I see Bloodhounds in the US. So call them what you want. They track strong human scent, and yes, a good one can track many days later, but they aren't specific tracking a missing person. No, you're getting confused. Max was not scent specific, but the dogs that came after were. Max is a good boy, yeah. He tracks somebody's scent. Near the neighbourhood pond, my understanding is when scent-specific article dogs were brought, no scent of Sebastian was found outside of his home property. Completely wrong, Patty. I don't know where you're getting this information from, but it's completely wrong. I think Sumner County needs to start telling the public what they actually know. Exactly, I agree, totally. This is why people are getting so confused. CP doesn't match with the presser from LE. Well, actually, it does. It just gives a lot more information. Because Ken Widener, you just heard him saying their dogs are scent specific and they got tracks away from the home. And then someone comes along with, Chris and Katie are lying. Okay, whatever. The only people who could come and clear this up from the horse's mouth are the cops. But then people would accuse them of lying to the public, so you can't win, can you? So it's interesting, very interesting. I need to hear it from law enforcement, but we've needed to hear anything about this case from law enforcement for a long time now. I think we're going to be waiting a long time yet. All right, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, folks.